Thank you for choosing CTN. And now, it's time with Herman and Sharron.
Love you. Thank you for joining us. We have a special program, and when I say special, emphasize the word special. Take a look at the screen, Ebola outbreak. And I have a guy that I have to prod every once in a while just to get him cranked enough to talk. Okay? Yeah, Dr. Ted Rohr. We've known each other since he was a kid.
Yeah.
And it is an amazing thing that is happening in our country that we probably thought third world countries would experience this and we would hear about it. And it also is amazing that Samaritan's Purse, Franklin Graham's missionary, interesting, isn't it, from America, goes to the country and he has this dreaded disease, comes back and is treated. Okay, you have studied what is going on, which is probably different than the news media would talk about.
It's just amplified more than the news media is talking about. And you know, it's interesting, Herman, I don't really talk about this a lot because it was so long ago, but you know, when I was in Florida, at Florida State University, I spent almost 400 hours in their biochemical genetics lab. And see, I don't really talk about that, but you know, I understand how this stuff works and what it does and how dangerous what they're doing is. See, what we have in the United States, we have 4 or 5 level 4 quarantine facilities. A level 4 quarantine facility is a facility that uses a positive pressure suit with a negative pressure room in which you have to go through like 3 or 4 different doors and be sterilized as you go into the facility. That's how you deal with a level 4 pathogen. Ebola was a level 4 pathogen. It's that bad. The worst thing on the planet is smallpox. Number 2 is Ebola, and number 3 is bubonic plague. Okay. And what's interesting about this is we have these level 4 quarantine facilities, only a few of them in the entire United States, and they're bringing Ebola patients in now from other countries, and they're coming in from other countries, and they're going to hospitals that are level 1, level 2 quarantine facilities that aren't even set up for this. And it's going to have a massive, massive blowback on the entire infrastructure of the medical system. In fact, I've got 36 articles I want to read through part of them today if we possibly can. I know we can't get through them all of them, and we'll make these available.
Just a half-hour show, folks.
But the reason for this is it's that nuts. And this, if it's not contained, is going to cripple the entire medical system in the entire United States. I mean, before they bring them, if they're going to, and we're also going to talk about the top 5 reasons that I figure, actually there's 6 reasons now, that the current administration in Washington is not stopping folks from Ebola-infected countries from getting visas to come into the United States and allowing them to travel from these countries that have got these massive infections going on with Ebola, getting on airplanes, coming over and dying on the airplanes, vomiting, and then basically they check him and they go, oh, he had no Ebola. They check him like in 3 minutes and tell us you had no Ebola. They don't know if Ebola. It takes days for the test to come back. And you're having people put in hospitals now that are vomiting, dying. You've got people in Sierra Leone. It's gotten so bad there in Liberia and Sierra Leone, they're throwing bodies in the rivers, letting them float downstream because they can't bury them quickly enough. And it's that bad.
Are you serious?
I can show you every one of the articles. And the nuttiest
but
thing.
I mean, who's writing the articles? I mean,
this is coming from the World Health Organization. This is all quoting from them. Everything I've got here is legitimate, okay? But we're not being told this because remember, our entire media systems owned by like 5 corporations, and the 5 corporations tell us what's news and what's not. They control AP and they control Reuters, and if they don't put an ad or an article on as far as what needs to be said about what's going on with this epidemic, this simply doesn't get broadcast into the mainstream media, or we're fed lies. For instance, let me give you an example. Let me just read you a couple of these. The Ebola outbreak coincided with the United Nations vaccine programs. Biblically grim, Yale team from Yale University foresees 90,000 deaths in one Liberian county alone by December the 15th. West African, what are U.S. biological warfare researchers doing in the Ebola zone? CDC shuts down bioterror and flu labs after discovering 327 vials of deadly pathogens have been lost, including smallpox. Then the White House, and this is who I'm quoting, the New York Times. This isn't something that Ted Broer's making up. This is the New York Times. The White House to cut funding for risky biological studies. Why? They're losing this stuff. It's getting out. They don't know what to do. So now the White House and the New York Times, to cover themselves, is now cutting funding for risky biological studies. And this just goes on and on. CDC admits droplets from a sneeze can transmit Ebola. Tests reveal Ebola can survive on some surfaces for up to 2 months. During an Ebola epidemic, all of your rights would be considered meaningless. Exclusive, the U.S. government just orders 250,000 hazmat suits to be sent to Dallas, Texas. Liberian thinks it needs 84,000 more body bags for the Ebola outbreak. This is all from the World Health Organization, but we're not being told any of this. This is what's going on.
It would create panic, right?
Well, no. We would probably march on Washington and tell these interesting people up there to close the border. See, this is not even a problem for this country. It's not a problem. Over 30 countries, including Canada and Australia now, and almost every African country, have closed their borders to Ebola people.
Well, Ebola, I just read part of your articles. 1976, Ebola outbreak surfaced in Zaire.
That's right.
It's 1976.
And they contained it. They contained it because they isolated and they didn't allow these people to leave. And what's interesting here, Dr. Francis Boyle, I'm a guy, I got to go through this real quick, so please forgive me for going through it quickly, but all of this stuff's in the literature. And what we're going to do is I've got 35 articles. I'm going to send you these for free when you order the Breakthrough Health book. I've got to cover my cost and all this printing. They're going to come to you in two booklets.
You'll see the website on the screen, even a phone number right there.
Yeah.
And so write that down for yourself because you can get the information he's talking about.
Yeah.
He talks about as fast as a machine gun can shoot. So you need to listen carefully. Years ago, I said, Ted, can you slow down a little bit? Because they're not hearing you. But on this, I want him to go back to the old Ted because we have so much to cover, and you can get the information if you'll take the information on your screen down, okay? Well, here we go.
I'm like you are, Herman. I like reading stuff in hard copies.
Yes.
I don't like reading stuff on computers.
True.
I've printed all these articles up for the listeners, and we're going to send them to you for free when you order the book.
He's out of ink now.
Well, no, we're going to be because I know what's going to happen because you guys haven't read this stuff. You haven't read why the CDC shut down bioterror and flu labs after discovering 327 vials of deadly pathogens had been lost. You haven't read that. I mean, so we're going to get you this information because a lot of the people that are watching today, they don't have access to the computer, to the internet. I'm going to give you full sources, full research. You can do your own research on this. This isn't a joke. I've been doing shows with you for 30 years. I've never come on a show like this before and done this. Yeah. Well, I was pretty upset about the government shutting down a couple of years ago. But other than that, that was all part of the same administration.
That's why you love this guy because he holds nothing back.
No,
there's no phoniness here. It's either Ted is excited about it or we don't even have it on.
That's right.
Here we go.
But on the Breakthrough Health book, there's an entire chapter in here on the immune system and how to build it. We're going to cover that today, too. There's 5 things you need to be doing right now to build your immune system, and there's also the 10 drugs you should never take in this book.
The whole book is worth it if you would just get a picture of Sharron, his wife.
That's true.
Forget about him. Okay, here we go.
Okay, Francis Boyle. Okay, he is from Harvard-trained PhD and attorney from Harvard. He wrote the Biological Weapons Terrorism Act of 1989. That's who this guy is, okay? And I'm going to tell you what he said about Ebola. We're going to go over the notes that I took off one of his interviews. He said that labs in Africa have been set up to bypass his law, which was life imprisonment, if they did this type of research in the United States. Now, you're listening to me, and I'm telling you right. They've got labs in Guyana, in Liberia, in Sierra Leone, in Kenema. These are level 4 containment labs brought to you by our university systems. These are biosafety level 4. That's what that means. Biological warfare work. The CDC and Tulane University have been over there in these countries since 1988, according to Dr. Francis Boyle, Harvard PhD. He said that Colombia is also doing warfare work over there. They can't do it in this country because they'd go to prison for it. The Ebola agent has a 70% fatality. It used to be 50% fatality. Apparently, this one has been, something's been done to it. It's been tweaked. This is Dr. Francis Boyle. There seems to be a genetically modified strain of airborne, to some extent, Ebola that's now been released somehow. Ebola has been mated with the common cold virus, and he said what he thinks has happened. This is the guy who wrote the warfare research biological study. He said he thinks that they were mixed. They were doing injections into people in Sierra Leone, in Kenema, to see if the immunizations were working for this toxin that they had developed. It got loose. That's what this guy says. Now, Sierra Leone is so angry in Kenema, they have closed down the warfare weapons research protocol there. Guys, this stuff is real. I'm not making any of it up. This is one of the top research PhDs in the world who wrote the Biological Weapons Treaty Act of 1989, and this is what his words were out of his own mouth. He said basically, when that cruise ship was supposedly carrying an Ebola person who had been exposed to that, he said the whole thing should have been quarantined. He said it takes 42 days to make sure the quarantine takes effort. The New York Times, this already quoted that article, the government said that it is closing down biological situations. That was Friday, October the 17th, 2014, is the article I just quoted you there. This goes on and on and on of what Dr. Boyle says. He said that he called him Dr. Mengele. That's not his correct name, from the University of Wisconsin. He was using a pun there because of Mengele being the German war criminal. He said that at the University of Wisconsin, and I looked it up, and he indeed did it, and I'm sending you the article on it. He said that he resurrected the Spanish flu virus from 1919 and brought it back to life, and now they carry it in a vial, and they keep that as one of their other pathogens they keep. This guy resurrected the virus from corpses, and this is what's going on now, and nobody's bothering to tell anybody what's happened here and what the level of extent this is.
What can we do with this?
Okay, what we can do with this is
we got the information.
Well,
what do we? We're just people.
Here's what we do. We call Congress up. We call Congress. We call our representatives up, and you tell them that you want the borders closed to the United States, that you no longer want people coming from infected countries into the United States. It's bad enough we no longer have a southern border on the United States. That's bad enough. That's insanity enough. And I personally believe that respiratory virus that has swept through the United States and killed a bunch of kids was because of bringing a bunch of immigrants in from Central and South America and from the Western Horn of Africa, completely unscreened medically. Over 65,000 were brought in across our now open southern borders because Obama allowed that to go on. I don't know what he's doing, but what we have here, I got to cover these real quick because I know we're almost out of time. We have 5 reasons that I figure, 6 reasons, now we've added one more to it, that the United States government is doing this and not shutting down the borders like Canada has already done, and like about over 20 countries in Africa have already done, and like Australia has already done. Number 1, the federal government in its current state is complete and totally incompetent. Okay, there's some pretty good arguments on both sides of that, or they're allowing something.
I think we figured that one out.
Well, they're pretty much nuts. Let me tell you something. I'm going to tell you a real quick story, and if you think this story is okay, then maybe you don't need to be listening to me right now. I'm at a state park in Florida, Amelia Island, this past weekend with my kids. I'm walking on the sidewalk with me and Sharon, and there's a rattlesnake's head laying on the sidewalk live. I stepped right in front of him. He almost struck me. I jumped back, and I yelled, oh my gosh, there's a rattlesnake. There's a whole group of children coming right behind us. I picked up a stick to kill the pit viper. The guy comes running out of the gift shop yelling, if you kill that snake, you're under arrest. And I said, this is a rattlesnake, it's by children. He goes, don't care, it has rights, it's a state park. And I said to him, I said, your political correctness run amok. And I said, this is a pit viper, it needs to be killed before it bites somebody in the park. You have no signs stating that there's active rattlesnakes here, and the kids are running through the bushes. I don't care, he has rights here. So he takes the club away from me that I had to kill the snake, picks up the snake by the belly with the club like he wanted to stroke it and kiss it and love it, and puts it down right beside the sidewalk. He says, don't touch that snake again, you're under arrest. And I looked at him and I said, this is insanity. And so then I'm standing there. Now he goes back in the shop, lets all the kids walk by, then he's standing by the snake, and I'm standing there warning all the children. Finally, I walked back out to the fort that was in the park and warned them, warned my children and everybody who would listen, there were rattlesnakes active and you had to be careful. There was one right by the sidewalk. And then I came back in, and he gave me a printed handout of why I would be arrested if I killed the snake. Now, Herman, I've had enough of this. I'm sick of it. They're treating Ebola the same way. They're acting like it's got some kind of medical rights, like that's why I was on with you. You're a racist if you didn't like Fast and the Furious. You're a racist if you didn't like IRS Gate. You're a racist if you didn't like Obamacare. You're a racist if you don't like Benghazi. Now you're a racist if you want to kill a stinking rattlesnake. Well, to me, I look at Ebola like the rattlesnake, Herman. This is insane that we've given these things rights. But number 1, incompetence of the federal government. I have a hard time believing that. I believe that this is much more calculated than this. Number 2, this is going to blow your mind. The CDC owns the patent on the Ebola device. Okay? The CDC owns the patent on the Ebola device. They've patented it. So any type of vaccinations or immunizations that are developed, they get paid a royalty on it. Last summer, when Canada tried to send medicine down for the people that were bringing like Camp Brantley back from Africa, they would not allow it in the United States because it infringed on intellectual property rights. Okay, so somebody's going to make a lot of money on this if this thing goes full-blown viral, okay? And I mean, hundreds of billions, if not trillions of dollars are going to be made on this vaccine. Bill Gates has invested over $50 million of his own money now in working on these different research things, trying to find vaccines.
That's like a tip for him. 50 billion.
Yeah. And number 3, The Rothschild, George Soros, eugenics protocols may be moving forward.
Wow.
Now, you know what I mean by that. A lot of you have no idea what I mean by that. What that means is...
Just the name George Soros is enough.
What that means is the Ebola czar that Obama has now appointed has said publicly, and I've got it on videotape, that the biggest problem we have in the world today is overpopulation. That's the eugenics protocol. They want to reduce the population of the planet. God help us if that's what they're doing, but I don't know why in the world they would leave borders open to countries that have Ebola, and this Ebola is coming into the United States unhindered. I don't understand that. I have no idea why they would do this. Number 4, the current administration is concerned about offending the infected countries, making them think that we're racist in the United States because we don't want to have them come over with Ebola. I don't even know how to respond to that. What about our country? What about our children? What about our economy? What about our future? How in the world can we think that this is okay to allow these people to come to the United States? If they want to come to the United States and they want to immigrate, I don't have a problem with that. Put them in a 60-day quarantine facility in another country, in a third-party country somewhere, and let them sit there and make sure that they don't have some type of disease. I'm okay with that. But see, what happened is he didn't do that with all the folks that just came across the southern border of the United States in the last 6 months. He let them come across without any type of testing whatsoever. Tens of thousands of them. And as soon as they went back into the school system, guess what happened? The respiratory virus swept the United States with the children. And they were bringing in dengue fever in, they're bringing in tuberculosis, they were bringing in polio, they're bringing all these diseases back into the United States that we've eradicated from these third world countries, but that's okay. It's not okay. It's not okay with me. I don't think it's okay with you. It's time to call Congress. Now that the elections are over with, maybe we'll actually get something done from the do-nothing Senate and the do-nothing Congress, and this nonsense is going to stop. Now, number 5 is interesting. This is very interesting. Sierra Leone produces some of the highest quality diamonds in the world, okay? The government right now is pro-U.S., pro-England in Sierra Leone. Sierra Leone was basically a colony of England. Liberia was a colony of the United States. Sierra Leone now has troops coming in to make sure they maintain the infrastructure of the country, to make sure the diamond mines stay open. Now, dear Lord, if this is all about opening diamond mines and the gold production and the natural resources of the West Horn of Africa, you know, they got a problem over there. They've got people in the way, and they're kind of pesky when you try to take over their stuff. I don't know. All I know that the same folks that brought us the Federal Reserve was the Rothschild banking cartel, and the Rothschild banking cartel funded De Beers, and De Beers is one of the primary buyers of the diamonds out of Sierra Leone. And you can go back to, if you want to read an interesting article about all of this, this is not me, go to the July 8th edition, 2013 issue, and read the article Buried Secrets by Patrick Keefe, and this is in the New Yorker magazine. Again, this is Liberal magazine writing this article. You guys, I'm going to repeat it. The July 8th, 2013 edition of the New Yorker magazine entitled Buried Secrets by Patrick Keefe. And what it goes into detail is all the corrupt politics involved with all the hundreds of billions of dollars in gold and diamonds that are coming out of the Western Horn out of Africa every single year.
Now tie this with Ebola. I don't get that.
This is why, these are the reasons that I'm saying that they haven't closed the borders of these countries, because these countries have such wealth and mineral wealth. They're trying to make sure they maintain the governments in these countries to maintain our private interests there corporate-wise. In other words, if we close the government down and the country falls, if we close the borders down and we don't send troops in, I mean, we're not sending in rebuilding troops. We're sending in Marines and troops to go in and kill people. This isn't about maintaining borders, okay? But what this is about is maintaining the infrastructure on the government to make sure that their oil reserves, their diamond reserves, and their other gold reserves are kept intact, because we want to have a favorable country to the United States and England maintaining the power in that country. This is the reason, one of the reasons this could be happening. We're covering reasons as to why we are not closing the borders to these countries.
Okay. How many have died as a result of this infection in America?
In America, we don't know. The numbers have been sealed. We have no idea. We know that several people have already died. And
couple,
we know,
right?
Yes, and
we know publicly.
That's right. And we also know that people are coming down with Ebola and being treated for Ebola, being diagnosed with Ebola, and they're being disappeared in the hospitals that we don't hear from them again. That's happening all over the United States. This is a problem. It's not, and we're
okay, what you just said, that sounds like just speech that you've heard.
No, I can send the documentation on it. These are medical doctors working in hospitals that have come forward and said that we had this person, we were treating them for Ebola, and they were taken. We don't know what happened to them. These are medical doctors coming forward and telling the truth. It's that bad, Herman. They don't want to have a panic like we said at the beginning of the show. But the problem is, what happens if we have medical martial law and quarantines? What happens if all that stuff starts?
Well, your rights are gone.
All your rights are gone. That's what we're going to do the article. And number 6, they're trying to cover up for something much worse that's about to happen. And that's the craziest thing here, because we don't know what's going on anymore because of the obfuscation of the press. We don't know who's telling the truth anymore and what's happening in reality. And so how do we know that we're not about to start a war with China or a war with Russia or some other horrible things fix to happen, like a banking collapse again or collapse of the Federal Reserve System? We don't know what's going on. And maybe they're trying to cover all of that up and using this for more obfuscation. I don't know. These are the 6 reasons that I've found, that I've looked at, that are causing us to leave the borders open with this horrible, horrible crisis in Sierra Leone and Guyana and Liberia. And it's an unbelievable mess. And if we do not do something to correct this by calling our congressmen and telling them we want these borders closed, the United States is not in any danger whatsoever if we close our borders. Not at all. This won't come here. It can't come here because our infrastructure is too strong medically.
1976.
Yeah.
It could have happened then.
No, it could have. But we are not in any danger at all. But we've got to close the borders. And now, hopefully, because we have the Republicans in the Senate, Republicans in the House, I don't know who's in charge of the CDC and why they haven't closed the borders. I don't know why we have over 30 countries now around the world that have said no more people from these countries can come in, but it's okay for us to bring them in. But again, I don't understand. See, all I'm doing is issuing theories here. I don't know what's going on up there and why they're acting like this. All I know is I want the rattlesnake dead. That's all I know. And if they don't want to kill the rattlesnake, I'm okay with that, but we need to try to get somebody to go up there and kill the rattlesnake and stop this thing from being brought into the United States. This is that bad. And you guys have never heard me do a show like this, because this is just all cutting-edge information on Herman's show today, because I told him, I called him up last week and I said, we've got to get this information out. That's why I'm going to make available all 36 of these reports to you guys when you order the book at no extra cost. I'm not making a penny on these reports. I'm giving them away to you guys for free, because I know that what's going to happen is you're not going to want to believe anything that I'm telling you, and I'm going to document everything that I just said.
You had, in one of the papers that I read, FEMA orders $1 billion of disposable coffins.
Yeah.
What's that all about?
Herman, we've known that for almost over 6 years now. They were stored outside of Atlanta, Georgia. There's pictures of them on the internet. There's videos that were done with them. They're saying that they were for any type of pathological panic or any type of, this is what they're saying, if we had some type of mass epidemic or pandemic that happened in the United States. I sent you the article on it. I know. I know. I didn't want to go on that. I didn't want to go there. But that's where this is all headed.
Now, they're saying it's not airborne. In other words, if you had it sitting next to me, I could not get Ebola. Is that correct or incorrect?
That's not what they said. They said the CDC.
Because they're saying that if you get fluids, in other words, if you sprayed me or coughed on me or whatever.
Yeah. The CDC admits that droplets from a sneeze could spread Ebola. That's the truth. See, here's the thing that nobody gets. And also, I already read you the other one that said it can stay alive on a surface for up to 50 days. And see, that's why I want everybody, that's why I want everybody, I mean, biblically grim, Yale foresees 90,000 deaths in one Liberia County alone. The Ebola outbreak coincided, this is the smoking gun right here. This is from Rents. This is another very reputable online news agency. The Ebola outbreak coincided with UN vaccine campaigns. This was written back in August by Shimatsu. And this is one of the best articles I'm going to send you. This one breaks down everything that's going on. It shows you exactly what happened. And over here, it's saying that basically this other one says that they can stay alive for up to 60 days, 50 days on surfaces. Now, we already know that if you go to a bathroom, okay, this is why they've gone with the automatic sinks and no doors on the bathrooms, and you don't touch anything, you don't flush anything anymore. Then when you touch the handles and you touch the sinks, you spread colds, you spread the flu, you spread viruses. They know that. That's why so many bathrooms have stopped doing this. When I was in the biochemical genetics protocol there at Florida State University, we went around to all the doorknobs. And we used a Petri dish with distilled water on the Q-tip, and we wiped every single thing down. We wiped stairwells down, we wiped doorknobs down, we wiped everything down, and we put them back into the Petri dish, and we put them into a little oven to incubate them. And within 3 to 4 days, they were all covered in fecal coliform, which means people had used the bathroom and not washed their hands, and they were touching all of these exposed areas. And all of that fecal coliform and all those surfaces was still alive. And that's the problem with this kind of stuff. And they told us it could be transmitted now through touch and through sneezing. And then a couple days later, they came back and they retracted their own statements because, like you said at the beginning of the show, they're trying not to let us know what's really going on because they didn't want us voting everybody out who was who wanted to do all this and to keep this stuff coming in. But Herman, we've got to do something as a nation. The United States, as we know it, is not what you and I knew as children anymore.
Yeah, right.
It's over with.
Right.
And, and if we don't do something quickly, it's not going to get any better. And so that's what I'm telling folks. I mean, you've never seen me copy 36 articles and give them away for free on a TV show before. Because I know that the vast majority of the folks that are watching this show right now, you guys don't have access to these types of articles. I want you to read them and make copies of them and send them to your friends and find out what in the world's going on so we can act together in the aggregate as a nation and put a stop to this nonsense, Herman. It's time to put a stop to this liberal theology of letting rattlesnakes bite children. It's no good. It's no good to do this. This is a bad choice for us. And if we don't, as Christians and as patriots, act on this, we're going to have a situation one of these days, we're not going to have an opportunity to act on it anymore. It's going to be over with.
Wow. What do you do with this? We are individuals wanting a country that honors Christ. We can still open the Word of God. I just said it today on another program, is that we are blessed in America.
That's right.
That you can still say this.
Well, yeah, right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we're blessed in America that I can open the Word of God.
That's right.
And read it. I mean, you could sit on a train or an airplane or whatever and open this and read it.
Oh, real quick. Ways to increase your immune system. Vitamin C, very important. Some of the research articles that I'm reading from the biochemical genetics people, and also
just make sure your vitamin C is not made in China.
Yeah, orthomolecular medicine people are saying, especially intravenous vitamin C is very important. You have to do that at your doctor's office. Vitamin D is in dog 3. D3, at least 5,000 I use a day, 13 milligrams of potassium iodide a day, Viagraphics, and immune support. Those are the supplements that are going to do the best to keep your immune system very, very strong. Because remember, just because you get exposed to Ebola doesn't mean you catch Ebola. Just because you catch Ebola doesn't mean you die from Ebola. It all depends on your own immune system, because there is no viable treatment protocol for Ebola right now.
Now, apparently, the missionary, the Samaritan Purse missionary, they used an experimental vaccine, right?
And they used it on some other people who died. So it worked for him.
Okay. So we don't know why? I mean,
Again,
he's just an answer to prayer?
I guess. And now also the nurse in Dallas who basically came down with Ebola from the guy who came in there vomiting, who came in sick from Sierra Leone or Liberia, and basically walked in the hospital and said, I'm sick, I've been over in these countries, and they said, go home, you have the flu, here's some antibiotics, and they sent him home, and he walked around for 2 more days vomiting on everybody.
But that was because they weren't trained.
None of them are trained, Herman. 3 or 4 hours of training doesn't do this.
Yeah.
These are level. It doesn't matter if you train somebody who's in a level 1 or level 2 or level 3 quarantine facility. That's not what this thing is designed to do. It has to be in a level 4 containment facility with negative pressure in the room. You walk in a spacesuit, you have an umbilical, and you attach your umbilical to an outside air source that inflates your spacesuit. That's what this is designed to be worked with. That's it. Not in hospitals.
Dave, just keep that on the screen while I'm talking, and make sure you get that website, get the phone number. You can get this information free. Get one of his books. You will love it. Jesus Christ is the answer to every need you may have. God bless you. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching It's Time. If you have recently made a decision for Christ, Herman and Sharron would like to hear from you.